Hi everyone, welcome to Cooking with Chef Rich. Today we're going to be making a chocolate mousse cake. The chocolate mousse cake I'm about to show you was one of the first cakes that I learned how to do when I was at the Culinary Institute of America. It's a very basic cake. It looks very nice, but it actually teaches you some very baking skills, which is a good thing. It gets you to work with chocolate a little bit. It teaches you basic cake mixing and also how to ice a cake, which are all very important skills to have if you wish to decorate cakes. So let's jump right in. Before we begin, I do want to dedicate this video to William and Gio at the deli in New City. They had asked me to dedicate a video to them. They always watch my videos on YouTube and they like them. So anyway, this is for you guys. Let's jump right in. The first thing that we're going to be doing is making something called a soft ganache. Soft ganache is similar to a hard ganache. If anyone had watched my truffle video, you use a hard ganache to make truffles. We're going to be making a soft ganache, which is actually basically used for chocolate whipped cream. It's not really chocolate mousse, it's chocolate whipped cream, so it's perfectly safe to eat. There's no raw eggs in it. Both taste great and looks amazing. So let's jump right in. Over here I have some heavy cream that I just brought up to a boil. And to do this, I'm just going to add my chocolate. And my butter. And now I'm just going to stir it until both the butter and the chocolate dissolves. And I'm going to mix this. It's going to take a minute or two for it to dissolve, but just mix it through and through. Once it's totally dissolved, we are going to put it in a container, let it sit out for probably 45 minutes or so, just to let it cool down, and then stick it in the refrigerator until it's totally chilled. Once it's totally chilled, I'll show you what to do. So the next part of our chocolate mousse cake is we have to do some chocolate decorations. And I do this in advance so it's ready when I need it later. I have a cup of milk chocolate here, and I'm going to put this in the microwave to melt it. We're going to go for about 45 seconds. So the next thing that we want to do is we want a tight layer of plastic wrap across the bottom of a sheet pan. We're going to be doing some very basic chocolate work. And see how there's like little lines in it? You don't want that. You want it to be really tight. That looks pretty good. Put one more. One more time this way. That's pretty good. Now I'm going to actually just double it. Once again, you want to pull as tight as you can get it. Alrighty. So now we're going to mix up our chocolate that was just in the microwave. And basically we're going to put this in for another 45 seconds and temper it. And once it's tempered and melted, I will show you what to do. See you shortly. So our chocolate is now tempered. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to put this out on the sheet pan. I'm going to use an offset spatula. I want to make it as smooth as possible, basically into a big rectangle. As I said, this is considered very basic chocolate work. For what we're doing, we definitely don't want a marble effect. If you take drops of white chocolate and just drizzle it over here, you can actually have a beautiful marble effect, which also works very well. This is something called a cake triangle. It's used for decorating. I'm going to take this and I'm just going to very gently make some squiggly lines. If you don't have a cake triangle and you can't make the lines, it's not a big deal. You can just do it without the lines. The cake will look just as nice. Now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna put this in the refrigerator just for about 2 minutes, and I'll show you what it looks like in 2 minutes. So our milk chocolate was in the refrigerator for literally just a minute or two. If you look over here and I touch it with my hand, you can see it's still kind of wet. It's still definitely wet, but up here it's kind of set because it's thinner. So what we're gonna do with this is I'm gonna make 3 lines. And just try to go as straight as you can. They're about 2.5 inches, I'm guessing, across. Now we're going to do lines going this way. You want to get them as even as you possibly can. I'm probably not doing a great job with that, but just do the best you can. Now we're going to go diagonally across. And then we're going to put this back in the refrigerator. And then when these set, we're going to have nice chocolate triangles. See you shortly. So our chocolate was in the refrigerator for probably 15 or 20 minutes. It's nice and set now. And now we're ready to work with this. Very, very simply, we're gonna try to lift these up. You notice I'm wearing a glove. And then you have a nice chocolate triangle. This is wrapped with plastic wrap. You can use a plate or anything you want. I actually have a bowl here for what I call scraps. Like the end pieces are scraps, and they make good eating for anyone that wants. But basically what you're gonna do, like these two stuck together, you can just break them. You want to try not to touch it with your hands because just the slightest amount of heat will kind of make these melt. Hopefully when you work with this in your kitchen is somewhat cool. If it's really hot, they will literally melt before you get to work with them. And also if they break, like this one, that just goes in the scrap pile. Basically, you want to just keep doing this until you're all done, which means it's time for Hyperloop. So as you can see here, these actually started to break. As long as I have at least 16, which I do, I counted them, this is fine. I'm gonna stick these in the refrigerator and use them later. Like I said, you need at least 16 for decorating. These I'm just gonna put in a scrap pile and I'll be munching on it throughout the day. So anyway, see you shortly. So now we're gonna make the cake part of our chocolate mousse cake. Both of our cake pans are lined with parchment and have been sprayed with cooking spray. Let's just run through all the ingredients here. We have 4 eggs that are separated, whites and yolks. I have vanilla, I have cocoa powder. This is a mix of salt, baking soda, and baking powder. This is regular all-purpose flour, unsifted. And I have sugar in 2 separate amounts. One sugar is going to be going with the egg yolks, one sugar is going to be going with the egg whites. The first thing that we want to do is put our egg whites up to whip. After the egg whites get a little bit frothy, we're gonna add this sugar gradually. So I'm gonna start to do that while it's mixing. While our egg whites are whipping, I'm going to take my flour, my cocoa, my salt, baking soda, and baking powder. I'm going to put this all in a bowl. Then I'm going to take a whisk and just whisk this up so it's all mixed through. Now I'm going to put my egg whites back on. You'll notice that when I pick this up, it drops right back down. So that's what we call medium peak. It's not quite stiff peak. If I went like this and if I went like that and you had a nice peak that stayed up, that would be stiff peak. You want kind of a medium peak. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our egg whites and put it in a bowl. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take our egg yolks. We're gonna put them in here. We're gonna mix this for 2.5 to 3 minutes. Minutes of mixing, we're going to gradually add our sugar. There it goes. Just scrape that down just a little bit to help it get some of the sugar down here. And then we're going to beat this for about 2 minutes. So this is nice and thick. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're alternately going to add water and our cocoa powder and flour mix. I'm just going to give this a little bit of a scrape. And we got some more cocoa mix. And some more water. Give it a quick scrape. Scrape this off best we can. Now we're going to put this with our egg whites and we're going to fold it in together. When you put it with the egg whites, don't put it on top of the egg whites because you don't want to knock the air out of the egg whites. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to fold our egg whites in. You notice this is a turning motion. You don't want to take the air out of the egg whites. You notice I'm also turning my bowl as I do this. That's pretty good. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our pans, approximately 50-50. These are 10-inch cake pans. Now because this has whipped egg whites in it, you don't want to be banging this because you'll knock the air out of the egg whites. You want to do your best to smooth it over, but you really don't want to push it down. That's pretty good. We're going to put this in a 375-degree oven for probably 15-18 minutes. So I will show you what it looks like when it comes out. Just took out our cakes. They were actually in the oven for right about 18 minutes. Now a couple things. You notice how it's pulling away from the sides over here? And when I touch on it, it springs back, it doesn't sink in, so that's done. The one thing I'm gonna do that's very important is I'm just gonna run a knife and make sure it's loose. Sometimes if it's stuck in a small spot, it'll actually tear the cake. Which I just did anyway, but that's besides the point. Oops, that'll be fine. I'm gonna let these cool, and once they're cool, I'll show you what to do next. See you shortly. Hi everyone. So our chocolate mousse cake is now cool, and our ganache is also cool. This is actually more important. This definitely has to be cool for you to work with this. So what we're gonna do is first I'm gonna actually undo these. These are what they call drop pans. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flip my cake out, hopefully. I'm actually gonna just turn it over. I'm gonna take this off. This I'm gonna leave on here. I'm gonna ice it right on here. I'm gonna do the same with this one. I just wanna take the parchment paper off. So when I work with it, it's clean. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take our ganache. We're gonna put it in our mixing bowl. I'm using a scraper to try to get all of it. And we're gonna add some heavy cream to this. And now we're gonna put this up to mix. It's basically gonna turn into a chocolate whipped cream. This will probably take about 3 minutes to mix, so I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. So our chocolate whipped cream is mixing. I'm going to show you what it looks like. It's pretty much done. It's stiff, what we call stiff peak, but if you notice how there's a lot of peaks and valleys in it, it's what we call stiff peak, and it's ready. I'm going to take this down and use it. And now we're going to start icing our cake. So we said this was the bottom. I'm going to put about 1/3 of an inch for the middle layer. So I'm not using a Lazy Susan, so I'm going to put some wet paper towel on here so it doesn't move. Now when I work with it, it's not going to move so much. Just a little bit more. It doesn't matter if it goes over the side, because in a little while we're going to be icing the sides, and that actually helps you. We want to get it relatively smooth. Then we're just going to flip this over. Make sure it's level. Basically making sure it's in line with the other one. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to actually look at it from this level, make sure it's pre-level, because you really want it to be level. So, as long as it looks level, that's good. I'm going to start by icing my sides. This will make a little bit of a mess on the counter, it's all great. At this point, I'm actually going to lift it up and move my wet paper towel. If you look at the bottom of this, over here it's not as stiff as it was. So I'm just going to take a whisk and whisk it up a little bit more. You really want it to be stiff peak when you're icing. Great, not bad. Then we'll do the top. If you have a Lazy Susan, this is definitely easier because the cake moves nice and freely. But if you don't, it's not a big deal. That's pretty good. So I actually washed off my spatula. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna heat this up lightly. Not too hot, but what's gonna happen is the heat is gonna melt the whipped cream a little bit if I don't make it too hot, and it'll give it a very nice smooth appearance. Gonna heat this up again. Just again for a few seconds, not for a long time. Now over on this side, some of my cake is showing, so I'm just gonna put a little bit more whipped cream on here. Once again, I'm gonna reheat this. Now we're going to work on the top. Once again, I'm going to reheat my spatula just a little bit. And from the sides where it's kind of coming over, just bring. I don't know if you notice, I'm starting down here and then just kind of folding it into it. I'm going to reheat my spatula one more time. One last time, no heat. And maybe one last time. Alrighty, that's pretty good. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take our whipped cream. Actually, before we do that, we're gonna mark our cake. This cake gets cut into 16ths, it's a 10-inch cake. So we're gonna do our best to go right in half to mark it. And then we're gonna mark again. Then we're gonna mark again, each one of those in half, one more time. And then we're gonna mark each one of those directly in half. I believe this is a Teco tip. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. And it's number 866. You can use any type of star tip on that you have. It doesn't have to be this brand, whatever you like, but I just want to show you what I'm using. I'm gonna put some whipped cream in our piping bag. Do one in the middle first. We'll just go around the outside. All right. And now we're going to take our chocolate designs that we made earlier. You want to make sure that the room that you're working in is not very hot, because literally these will melt as you're working with them. As I said, this was the first cake that you learned how to make at the CIA. It gives you an introduction to basic cake baking, working with a piping bag, working with chocolate. So it's actually a nice cake to make. It is a little bit on the old school side, but it's still a very attractive looking cake. And tastes great too. It's actually one of my favorites. To this day, I love this cake. And I'm gonna put that on a cake plate. Give me about 2 minutes and I'll show you what it looks like. Our cake is finished. You can see how it looks. Hopefully, definitely looks good enough to present to somebody. I'm gonna cut it open right now and have a slice. So here you can see what it looks like when it's cut. I mean, before I eat it. So my friend Tara was telling me that I absolutely have to taste everything on camera. So this is for you, Tara. Really good. Really, really good. This is one of my favorite cakes. Now, if you ever had a very, very heavy, thick chocolate cake, that's exactly what this is not. This is like the lightest cake you'll ever possibly imagine. It's not overly sweet. It has enough sweetness, but it's not overly sweet. It's just a very, very light tasting cake, really delicious. So anyway, if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Please share it with your friends and leave your comments down below. Thank you so much. Be safe.